Hi, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with My People. Okay, full disclosure. I love this topic that we're going to talk about today. I mean, first of all, it's about love. It's about connection. It's about like finding that person, like finding your person, that person that just like really makes you feel the best version of yourself, the person where you're in flow and you're in glow and you just feel so grounded and so good and so safe and so protected and just so amazing. Like you just want to just like jump out of your skin. You feel so good. And I love that. Like everybody that really knows me knows that I go around the world just trying to matchmake everybody, not just matchmake entrepreneurs or matchmake young people in business. It's like I'm always trying to matchmake love. We're going to talk about that today. So I'm really excited to introduce a woman who has so many layers to her, so many boxes checked off. I mean, she is like, yes, she is a badass entrepreneur who's like trailblazing into a whole new territory. She's the CEO of 3 Day Rule, which is a matchmaking service. And she's just, and also aside from that, like she's an amazing human being. Like when you spend time with her, and I've been lucky over the years to spend time with her one-on-one in person, like you just feel so cared for. You feel so heard. And that's what she brings to this whole process. So let's introduce this beautiful, beautiful young woman, Talia Goldstein. Hi, Talia.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's so, look how beautiful she is. So beautiful. So before we start, we always do this ritual. It's just 3 deep breaths that we just kind of, so you and I can connect together. So our wonderful audience and community can connect before, so we can just ground ourselves so we can share, listen, and connect. So deep breath in for 4. Hold your breath and smile. Exhale, love. Inhale, joy. Hold your breath and smile. Exhale, love. Last one. Inhale. Hold your breath. Exhale. Hi.
I loved that. I needed that.
And we all need that. Breath is like, it's just so important for us to take those moments to just connect to that. So what I love about this segment today is that we're going to really help people. Like we're going to help people fill up their toolbox with some tools on first getting in touch with who they are, right? A little bit of clarity. Like I always say, no matter what, clarity is the most important thing, right? To have clarity on who you are, what it is you really want, just to be able to like get clarity on those things. I love that. But first I want to know, we'd want to know a little bit of your background story. Like, how did you know that you like had this skill set, this like magic to be able to connect people and do this and then create this amazing platform?
You know, it started long ago. I think when I was in high school, I always loved love, just like you. And I would set up my friends on these little group dates, and we had so much fun. And I had my first success story in high school. And then after college, I worked in advertising, and then I worked in television. And at these jobs, I was just fascinated by people's love lives. And I would sit in my cubicle and give relationship advice. And I'd march right up to the execs that everyone was scared of and ask who they were dating. And it was just something that I enjoyed so much. And it was a passion. I never imagined in a million years I would be a professional matchmaker. But while I was working in television, I was on the show True Hollywood Story for E! Entertainment. I started matching my coworkers and my friends, and I realized I had this weird talent in setting people up. Like the people that I was matching, They were dating, they were getting engaged, they were having babies, and it was so exciting for me. So what I did was I started hosting parties. So that way I could bring my friends and my coworkers together in a larger setting. And they took off. The first one had 20 people, the next one about 100, then 300. And then we were taking over these huge hotels in Los Angeles with 600 singles. Wow. So it was still a passion project, but just something that I loved doing, and I realized I was good at it.
Wow. All right. So then you kind of said, all right, time to pivot out of TV and actually turn something that I just want to like connect to the entrepreneur story, because we have a huge community that's all about pivoting and entrepreneurs. So take us through just a little bit of that, like that entrepreneur moment of letting go of the day job and going into like putting on the big girl boots.
Yes. It was a huge transition and obviously a big leap. But at one of the events, we had 600 people, and I recognized that they were all really interesting, successful, attractive. They had so much going for them, but obviously they were having trouble dating if they were showing up and paying for my event. And so I realized there was something missing in the market. And before I took the leap to quit my full-time job, I tested it out to see, would people actually pay me to match them at night? So I took on a handful of clients. I had no idea how much to charge. I remember I went to this bar and I saw a guy trying to pick up on women. And I said, I can do that better than you can. Meet me tomorrow at Starbucks, bring me $250 cash, and I'll take over your love life. And he did. And that was my first client. So I just took on a handful of clients to see if I could do it. And I realized that I was able to, and they had success and they would tell their friends. So once I had a handful of clients that would pay me, I ended up leaving my job and starting this tiny matchmaking company.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Okay, great. So now let's just jump right in, because we have a lot of people that will be going on dates probably this weekend. So I would love for them to have a new skill set of what they need to do. So we know, and actually we actually talked about this prior to the starting this meeting, is we all have so many friends. We know so many people, so many of the, even the young women that I mentor in their 20s, in their 30s, they all use this app. I don't care if it's Match, Tinder, Area, something League. I mean, there's all these like different apps that they're all using. They swear that they have the most amazing men on it and yada, yada, yada. And year after year, none of them are finding much going on. So like their apps are not going to go away, and we're not going to sit here but like share with us a little bit of how you can navigate through these apps in a way where you can actually have some success.
Yes. So the apps are great because they give you access to millions of people you wouldn't otherwise meet. But they've also brought on so many challenges. So first of all, the average online dater spends 12 hours a week online. So you absolutely can find your person. It's just incredibly time consuming. So you have to put in the work to do it. And then, you go on a date with someone and you're looking for marriage and they're looking for something casual. And so it is very much a process, and people are exhausted by the apps. It's demoralizing and it's tough, but it absolutely can work. I would say the biggest piece of advice I have for people who are online dating is to put in the time. But more importantly, you are probably swiping on what's familiar to you. You're probably swiping on what you think your person's going to look like, or what education they have, or their height. You're probably only swiping on people that you think you're going to be attracted to and like. But the most successful daters are open to other possibilities. So if someone is remotely interesting to you or you're intrigued by them, swipe right. You just never know. I would say the majority of our success stories end up with someone a little bit outside of their comfort zone. So be open. Your person is probably coming in a different package than you expect. So what I would tell you is be willing to be surprised. Give people a shot that maybe you otherwise wouldn't. And that could be the difference. That could be the game changer for you dating online.
So take us a little bit to what you need to know about yourself. Because I always say, I don't care what the situation is, if you don't know who you are, like really deeply, like authentically, like understand, like break it down to like what my core values are, like what I value. Like I just like how does that, like, because I know I've actually this weekend had a friend that's going through the process with you, and when I saw the three different areas, like I was the one saying, oh no, we got to redo this, like we got to redo this, because you're leaving out some amazing possibility of great men in this. So like share with us a little bit about that, like how you get to that place to understand more about yourself, which then helps you like go in the dating process, right?
Right. It's tricky because over time we accumulate this list. And so a lot of people come to us with a list of 75 things they're looking for. Like the person needs to be a certain height and perfect teeth and perfect family background and make a certain amount of money. And we have these long lists, but we don't understand why. Like, why does that actually really matter to you? So an exercise that we do with our clients is we let them tell us everything they're looking for. And then we help them narrow it down to 3 must-haves, 3 deal breakers, and 10 nice-to-haves. And that way they can really spend time thinking about what are the non-negotiables. In every match who I end up with, what is really going to matter in 20 years? And so for some people, must-haves might be something like financially stable, wants kids, loves traveling, or...
Well, I got to interrupt that. Yeah. Loves traveling, but trust me, you're not going to be traveling for 18 years.
Right. That's so true. And everyone's list is different. So but you're right. That it has to be non-negotiable. If that is non-negotiable, you can put it. And if it's not, move it down to the nice to haves.
Right.
I agree with you on that one. But, to each his own. So we have them go through this, and that gives them clarity on what the absolute non-negotiables are. And then the nice to have. So when you're going on the dates, all you really need to know is, does this person meet my must haves and my deal breakers? And outside of that, it's important to be as open as possible. You just really don't know who's going to excite you. And if you limit yourself, you're going to miss out. Exactly what you said about our friend. You might miss out if you put something on the list that truly isn't going to make a difference later in life.
So how do you help people navigate that list? Because I don't think that's easy. I think, people have their, it's been embedded, marry well. It's been embedded, like, especially for us women, what marrying well looks like, right? Like, right. How do we, because like, that's breaking down some deep family, like beliefs that's been coming to us for years and years and years. Like, I think that's the one. And I think the other one that just like, I don't know why, but it makes my hair go up on my back when people say, they're telling me all these amazing things about this person. And they're like, but I don't have chemistry with them. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but I want to like jump out of my seat. When somebody says, they've just told me all these amazing qualities about this person. Like they're kind of telling me they get along, like the whole religious thing works. Like that person fits in there. We like to eat the same way. Like he doesn't bother me. We get along, like all this stuff. We like listening to the same music. Like, because I know my first long relationship, which was long, I hated being in the car with this man because he liked Smashing Pumpkins and I liked R&B. Like it was always like, all right, we listened to that for 15 minutes. Now we're listening to my music. I mean, a road trip for us was hell, just because of the music. So when I hear people that have all those boxes checked, that they get like all that, and then they're like, but I don't have chemistry with them. And I'm like, whoa. Let's talk about that a little. Cause I think that is a huge illusion on some level.
Yes, I agree. And part of it is the movies that we watch, and we have this idea that we're going to have these crazy sparks, that we're going to meet the person and we're going to know we're going to have butterflies, and that's how we know it's our person. But the majority of time, it's a slow burn. You'll have chemistry once you have all the other things you just mentioned. And so it takes time to get there. And we just had a couple recently, it was very hard for her because she kept coming back and saying, he's amazing, everything I asked you. We have so many things in common. He agrees with everything, but it's boring. And I think because a lot of people are used to drama, boring is scary, but actually when you're at ease, that's great. Then you don't have to be someone you're not. And that's, so we have to sort of retrain our brain to recognize what should we be looking for. And sometimes when you have butterflies on that first date, it's actually a negative. It's anxiety because you don't know how that other person feels about you. Mm-hmm. And so it's actually best when it's just easy.
Well, I remember a therapist once telling me, if you have those butterflies and that sexual energy, run, because people you're always attracted to are emotionally unavailable. And those are the people that you're always having that crazy spark with. And I followed that, and I feel like that actually got me to where I am, which is in like the most beautiful, amazing, marriage that I never thought I was going to have, so I think you're right. I think you're so right that you have to kind of really dig down and see, because I could see where I've heard people say this person's boring, and I'm like, same thing like you. No, actually, let's break this down. Like, they have integrity. There's no drama because you're not like sitting at the end of your seat. Are they going to call? Aren't they going to call? Because the other person said they call and they never did. Right. Where this person actually says, I'll give you a call at the end of the day, and they call. So a lot of people are just so used to that, like that banter, but it's like that banter on steroids. Like,
right. It's so true. Consistency wins in the end.
Yes.
The ones that call when they say they're going to call, a lot of times people with the secure attachment style get passed up because.
Wait, no. Explain that.
Just people who are secure in themselves, and they're confident, and so they're going to follow through. They're going to call when they say they will, and you don't have a lot of anxiety around them. So they get passed up a lot of times because they are so stable.
Right.
And the ones that you don't know what's going to happen are the ones that you're most excited about, but that's not going to lead to a lasting relationship. And to go back to the first part of your question, like how do you analyze and know what really matters? It's really simple. You should just ask yourself why. So if you think I need someone who makes X amount of dollars, why? Do you really need that person to make X amount of dollars? Or are you just looking for stability? You just want someone financially stable and responsible. So you can swap out what you think you need, a certain amount of money, for a feeling that you have. So if you come up with your list, just ask yourself why, and sometimes, I'll give you an example. There was a client that I was working with, and she came to me and said, I want someone who's Jewish, and I want someone who is not in the entertainment industry. So I tried to figure out, is this really a must-have? Is this a nice to have? Why? Why? And she had a lot of limiting beliefs around it. And what we discovered was she actually didn't need that. That wasn't a must-have for her. It was sort of a nice to have, and she thought that's who she would end up with. And I paired her with a Catholic film producer, and they're married with twins.
Okay, so how did you get her from that? Like, how did
just going into the why, and is that truly, that is a must-have for you? And if it's a must-have, great, stick to it. Now you know and you're clear. But if you think you need something because someone else told you did, maybe it's your parents or your friends, really think to yourself if that's for you or for somebody else.
Yeah. Wow, I love that. So, it's interesting because I feel like I've been around dating services since I was in my mid-20s, even though I didn't join, but I had been around some women who were like 10 years older than me that were doing it. And I always thought like, wow, that's amazing. And then I met a friend who was a matchmaker, and then of course the apps came in, and I feel like that whole matchmaking thing kind of died for a while, but now it's back, like bigger than ever. I mean, that's why I want to do this segment, because all of a sudden I'm hearing of so many people that are going to, different types of agencies. So why do you think, like right now, when these apps are, why is that people are pivoting and using this?
Yeah, it's true. The matchmaking industry is booming, which is great for everyone. And there's plenty of room for all the matchmakers. I think part of it is online dating and how challenging it is. And I think also people are realizing that they need an expert, like the way that you would hire a realtor or a personal trainer. Like you also need that for your love life if it's a priority for you. And the great thing about matchmaking is we get to see your blind spots. You know, not only are we pairing you with people who are great matches for you, but we get to help you become a better dater. So when we're setting up a client, first we're actually getting to know the client and the match. We get a 360 view of who these people are. We're making sure their core values and their must-haves align before setting them up. So when they go on the date, all there is left really is the chemistry. And then both parties after the date give us feedback. And that feedback is invaluable because you don't get that in the real world. We know exactly what is happening on the dates and how we can help our clients get better at dating. So, you know, as an example, I had a client who she kept liking her matches, but her matches didn't think she liked them. Her arms were crossed the entire date. So like the body language was giving off that she wasn't interested. Wow. Or we might find that our clients are grilling the other person on the date. So we get so much information. So the goal is to match our clients with the love of their life. Everybody wants that. At the very least, they walk away a more confident dater. And then when they do the apps and they meet in person, they're really equipped to be, you know, they're ready for the right person for them.
You know, it's interesting because I remember in my 20s when I was dating, I had a roommate at the time, and I go out on these dates, and usually somebody was fixing me up. I used to get fixed up a lot, and I would come back, and she would say to me, "Okay, so where is he from? What does he do? What is his family like? Where did he go to college?" And I'd be like, "I don't know." And she'd say, "What do you mean you don't know?" Like, Lavinia, I'm like, "I don't know." Like, we just had a good time and the conversation was just flowing and we were laughing and we were just like whatever was showing up in that moment in real time, being present. And she'd be like, "Lavinia, like, you've got to learn how to date. Like, you've got to interview them." And I'm thinking like, but you know what? I'm working all day. Like, I want to go out on a date. Like, dating's got to be fun. Like, I just was like, I don't want to go out on the date and like be interviewing like I'm in human resources or something. Like, there was something about that energy that was just not me. Like, if I'm going to go out and get dressed up, come home, get dressed up, put on my makeup, I want to, like, it has to be celebratory. It has to be fun, you know? And it was interesting because over the years, I felt like she would go out on a lot of interviews. And I'm not even really sure she ever married or anything or found her soulmate. But I was the one that was just like having fun. And then at the end, you know, you'd get a message because that was when we had phone machines and they'd be like, "Oh my God, Lavinia, I had so much fun with you. Like, we have to go out on another date." And again, it probably took me a few times before I really started even understanding all of that. And, you know, I always found, like, for me, instead of interviewing them, just seeing like how they showed up. Like, I feel like I could tell a lot about who you were and your integrity. If you say, you know, "Let's go on another date," or "I'll call you," and then they call you, and like, they didn't have to sit there and tell me like, "I'm a responsible person and I'm disciplined and I'm this and that." Like, you could tell so much about who they are if you're just present and in it with them, you know. And do they show up? And then of course it's like, you know, years ago, we just had phone machines. So, you know, it wasn't as easy to actually connect with people. Today, it's like they have text, but, you know, and you know what, like, they would be like, I remember getting called at like 7 o'clock in the morning because it was like, they knew I'd be home getting ready for work, but that showed you that they were interested. Or they called you at like 10:30 at night because, "Hey, I wanted to make sure I got you." You know, it's just like, there was so much that you don't need to like really hear in the interview, you know? So
That I'm sure we're the best dater. And that's exactly the mindset that you should have when you're going on the dates is your job is to have fun. Be present and enjoy yourself. We tell our clients, just assume there's going to be a second date. Just go into the first date assuming you have a second date. And that way you don't feel like you're performing. You have to land a second date, or you're not in your head wondering, is this going to be, my soulmate for life? You're just there and you're having fun, and you just assume there's another date. Later, after the date, you can kind of assess to see if you even want another date. But it's so important to have fun, especially now that people are dating a ton. You have to stand out. And if you're the person grilling your match on a date, you're probably not going to get a second date.
Right. Yeah, I think that, like, if I could say anything to young people, it's like, you need to lighten up. Like, yeah. You need to find the joy in this process, And again, like, I always thought, like, well, he may not be my person, but you know what? Like, you could be friends with them. You start hanging, they invite you to a party. And the next thing you know, he's got friends that are I always thought beyond that. Like, it wasn't just this moment here. It was all about, it was something beyond that,
Right. And to be curious. Worst case, you learn about someone's story. That's so interesting. You walk away, having an interesting, you ask them about their childhood or what they learned the past year during the pandemic. Like, that's interesting information. So maybe this isn't your person, but it's a fun hour.
Yeah, I love that. I think that that's an important part of it, a really important part of it.
So you never know, like you said, you never know if a friend of a friend or, who they have. So it's also best, if it's not right, to end on a positive note and not to ghost people or have this bad behavior that people do online, because you never know if that person actually has a friend for you.
Right. Yeah, that whole ghosting thing, like, that is just so lame.
Agreed. It's so lame.
That should just be like, once somebody does that, like, you don't even think about them ever again. There's got to be things about, like, I was like that about if somebody says they were going to call and they didn't call, like, that's not my person. Like, I know my person has integrity. Like, there's just like, there were just certain things that I just kind of, that I just could feel and that you could see, that you just be like, no, or the little white lies, when you're like, yes. Those little white lies, like, oh my gosh, like the hair goes up on my back with those little white lies. Like, it's just like, I don't do well with that either,
And that's really prevalent in online dating. 81% of profiles have a lie. Like, they're lying about something. It might be height or the age or the photo. And then you're starting off on a lie. You might as well just tell the truth. And if your person doesn't find you, it's okay. But, why would you lie about your age online?
It reminds me, I have a girlfriend who recently, it was about a year ago, she was started dating. And at first I was helping her do her whole profile and whatnot. And she ended up getting fixed up with someone. And she was so like, he was really honest about his age. And like, she didn't even want to go on the first date. She's like, I'm not going out with somebody that old. I'm not going. And I was just like, I am coming to your house and I'm picking you up and I'm making sure you go on this date. Like, I don't know why, but I just had such a good feeling because of the person that introduced her and the whole bit. I was like, you're going on the stage. She's like, no, I'm not interested in being with somebody else. And you know what? Like, they're so happy. And like, it's like, but she was really, and even for a couple of months dating this person, she was like fixated with the age. And finally I was just like, you got to let that go. Like, there's something. And then, it's really true. Like, 3 of my closest friends right now are all dating men that they all said that if they would have put down what they wanted on paper, it would not have been who they're dating. And they feel so loved and so cherished and feel just so good in their own skin in this relationship. So I do think it's those tools that really help us navigate that.
And when you ask a lot of couples, like your friends, if exactly what you said, if you would have written down, would you have ended up with that person? And most of the time they say no. And it's important to remember is they may have met that person through work or through friends. There's other context of why they got put in a room with that person. Where now we're meeting people online. And so it's different. You know, we're just judging too quickly. We don't have enough context yet to know. So I think if you go on a date with someone through online dating and they're remotely attractive and seem like a kind person and hit your must-haves, it's worth it to give them another shot so you have more context. And you just never know. Maybe on the 5th day, you'll realize they're your person. You don't have to give it 5 dates, but at least 2 to see.
Right. You know, though, like on the other hand, like sometimes I think like, wow, like when I even think about us, like, you know, again, for years, like growing up, my mom always said, never get in a car with a stranger, never get in a car with a stranger. And like today, to think that we're all getting in cars with strangers, like there's something about that is just like, kind of like freaks me out. But it's the same thing with this dating. Like, how do you know that some of these people aren't like, I don't know, sociopath, crazy people? Like I always try to figure out, like, is there some way, because, you know, we all say we're like 6 degrees of separation, right? Is there some way that we can find to kind of like find out who this person really is? Like a little bit of, do you guys do that kind of like background thing to kind of understand a little bit more layers? Like, is there like a little bit of a process?
For us, it is. Through matchmaking, we get a lot more information than you would online. Right. So we're interviewing the clients in the matches. We'll, of course, do a Google search and a social media search, and we'll dig, deeper to find out more about this person.
So they're vetted a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. We do like a thorough vetting before we set people up. And if for us there's any sort of red flag or something feels off, we won't do it. We'll pass on that match.
Wow, I love that. So tell us, like, I just want to, I don't know, like, tell us a couple of your like major success stories that just make you like, I don't know, make you feel so good knowing like, wow, like we did that. And that was not like the trajectory of what anybody thought was going to happen, right?
Yes. Oh, there are so many. There's one recently, just the last couple of weeks, where we matched a couple and they must have crossed paths dozens of times. They sort of worked in a similar industry. They went to the same coffee shops and same places, but they never met. And so it wasn't until we matched them that they ended up meeting, and they're so in love and so cute and the coolest. Like, I love this couple. So that's exciting for me because it took matchmaking in order for them to meet. But we have this other story that I'm obsessed with. It's just so crazy. But one of our clients heard an ad on NPR, and NPR, they said, would anybody be interested in having us follow one of their dates? And our client raised her hand and said, I would like that. And she was accepted. So we had to find her a match that was going to be filmed for this NPR piece, which is a lot of pressure for a matchmaker. But we found her this great guy. They had a ton in common. And we thought at the very least they'd enjoy the date. So they went on the date and they did have a great time, which was a huge win for us. But then a year later, they went back on NPR to announce they had gotten married.
Oh my God.
And I love this story so much because she put herself out there. That's big, to volunteer yourself, to be filmed, and it paid off. And so sometimes these bold moves like end up really paying off. So I love that story.
All right, just because we're almost at the end. So I just want to kind of like go back. So like, just so we can help people like things that they're going to do. Like, so the first thing they're going to do is put the time, if they're going to do it online, they're going to put the time in. Second, they're going to go on dates and they're not going to interview. They're going to go in and they're going to be like charming and fun. And they're showing up to like have a good time. A date should be fun. Like if you go on a date, like I do remember there's times where I came home from a date and I thought, oh God, like it wasn't worth the time and energy making myself look beautiful for this date. Like, you know what I mean? Like that, it does happen. And sometimes it really was my own attitude. Mm-hmm. Like I am really sure that, when I look back now, that if my attitude would have been better, I would have had a much better time on that. And maybe because I was just kind of going, oh, this isn't my person or whatever. Like, this is not. So definitely have a good time, connect with your attitude. So talk a little bit about after the date, because I know that like some of the stuff, like some of the feedback that you get, that what didn't work, like why somebody wouldn't want to go out with somebody again. Like, so we understand that, because I know that there were some, I remember you telling me that there were some girls that were over texting, felt desperate, like, or something.
Texting is problematic before and after the date. And especially because we all have different texting styles. Some of us want to banter and we really enjoy that. Some of us are like, just text me the schedule and I'll meet you at dinner. So we all have these different styles and we can't judge each other based on the text. So it's best to just minimize the texting and just get on the dates. And you can even have a conversation. What is your texting style? Like, how much do you like to text? But that can really be a buzzkill for people. I think after the date is when you really analyze how you felt. And that is the most important question. How did you feel on the date with that person? Did you feel at ease? Did you feel attractive? Did you feel respected? And that's how you can assess whether or not you'd be interested in going on a second date. You know, more about the feelings and less about like what their job is. And
Talia, I love that you're saying that, because the truth of it is that it really is about how you feel. Like, I know when I, like the first 4 or 5 dates with my husband, like I loved who I was. Like, I was so funny. Like, for whatever reason, the energy that we had, like he would say something and then I would say something. And I'd even be thinking to myself, my God, I'm like, oh my God, I'm a comedian. Like, I am so not a comedian, but it was the energy between us that really made us that made me feel so funny. So, and to this day, we have that. Like, every day we laugh with each other. I say something and he cracks up, and then it makes me go further and deeper to be funny. And like, no matter where we are, like, it's so based on humor. But I know that for me, that's important. Like, I have friends who I adore, but after having lunch with them, I'm like, for whatever reason, the energy between us doesn't bring out that humor. And I feel heavy after that. So I know for me to be with even like my closest friends, we have to have fun together. Like, there has to be this flow of humor. Like, I have to be able to, I'm making fun of myself, they're making fun, they do something, I feel the freedom to just go off and play off of each other. So it really is it is so much about that. It's like that feeling of what it is that you really like to feel,
Exactly.
That's so important. That is like such a great bit of information, to really be able to connect to that. And if that feeling, like you said, it can make you feel safe. To me, it made me feel happy. So it's those things that are really, I mean, again, it's like, this is like a person you're going to spend a lot of time with.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's why I always tell people to think about what's going to matter in 20 years. And it's probably that. It's probably that you're still laughing at each other and that you still feel loved and safe. It's probably not that he's 5'10". That's not going to matter.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Those are like definitely things that, maybe the first month or like, and then after that, I mean, like I said, like my husband is, on the shorter side. And I remember him walking into my closet after we dated a month, and I have this whole wall with these amazing high heel shoes and platforms. And he says to me, you never wear those shoes with me. And I'm thinking like, yeah, well, I would be like a head taller than you if I wore those shoes. And he goes, do you not wear those shoes because I'm, kind of short? And I was like, And he goes, don't worry. My last girlfriend was 6 foot and she wore 6-inch heels. Like, I'm okay with that. Oh my God. Like, I was like, I love you. Like that was like, to me, that was like strong and confident. I'm like, that was sexy. Like, that's the kind of stuff that starts building chemistry.
It's
like,
so true.
Like, those are the things. It's like, man, that's chemistry, right? Like, and so like that chemistry isn't always that first date where you're just like, you want to rip each other's clothes off and go for it. Like, that was what my therapist said. That should be a red flag.
Yes.
Big red flag.
I remember the exact moment that I had with my husband where we had gone on a handful of dates and he was so nice and I just kept giving him another shot. And then he handed me an LA magazine and he said, look at all the restaurants, circle the ones that you'd like me to take you to. And for some reason, it was that exact moment where I thought, this is the type of guy I should be with, like someone who wants to know where I want to go to dinner. So it can be some small thing that all of a sudden this light bulb goes off and you realize this is your person.
Oh my God. So I'm so excited for everybody out there, like to dive in. So I know you guys have a couple of offers for our community. And I know you also have like a little, a free platform.
Yes.
Can I just share a little bit about what you have with that?
Of course. Anyone who's single can sign up. It's at 3dayrule.com. You have to spell it out, the number 3. And you can sign up for free to be in our network, and we'll keep you in mind for any clients that we're working with. It's all private. We don't have public profiles, so anyone is welcome to join. And then if you're intrigued or interested about being a client, you can set up a meeting with a matchmaker, and we'll go through these exercises. Even that is helpful, to go through the must-haves and the deal breakers with your matchmaker. Even if you don't end up signing up, like, that can be a helpful exercise. So you will meet with your matchmaker, and then if you're interested, you can become a premium member where you work closely with somebody from our team.
And I know you're offering a $500.
Exactly. And we're offering $500 off. If you just mention this podcast and
you just mention conversations with my people, and then you'll get the $500 off for that. Wow. Okay, good. I know. I mean, I have a couple of friends that you've matched and they've gotten married. And I have another young friend that's going to be starting. So I don't know. I am like so excited for everything that you do. And yeah, so amazing.
Hired, Lavinia, if you ever want to be a matchmaker.
I know. I feel like, I'm at a point now where I'm like, okay, I'm reinventing myself a little bit, but I really do think of myself as this, like I was saying, like, we started going to a new doctor with my husband, and we go in there, we're in the room with him, and I'm like, I wonder if he's single. He doesn't have a ring on. And my husband looks at me like, oh, and I'm like, I have so many amazing girlfriends I could fix him up with. He's a great guy. Like, that's where my mind just goes. It's like so funny. I think because I just feel like when people are, I don't know, when you're in love and you have that connection, it's like it's like, I love peaches. But like when you're like that, it's like, it's the sweetest, juiciest peach you can eat. It's like dripping down your face, right? Like you need like that. To me is just, life is that much juicier when you have somebody in it that you really just like connect with. Like you have this like magical connection, so. Oh my God, Talia, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so appreciative. And I know our communities got a lot out of this for sure.
Good. Thank you for having me. It was so fun.
Amazing. All right, everyone. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Bye.